And at this moment, Ife Tayo is stepping aside, and our spiritual matriarch, Harriet Tubman, is stepping through. I say, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. Most of you know me by the name of Harriet. But I wasn't born Harriet. Way back when. Oh, they don't know when I was truly born. It could have been January, it could have been February, it could have been March, but it could have been in 1820, it could have been in 1822. That's what all the reports are saying. That's what everybody's saying now to all you modern gals. But just know that I was born in Dorchester County, Maryland, a slave baby. A slave baby on a plantation, born to a slave mama and a slave daddy. Do you know what it means to be born a slave baby? And I want you to understand, when I share this with you, when I share my story with you, this is not only about the slavery that I was born in. This is about all of us. This is about the slavery that we have all experienced and that we are still experiencing. This is the story of overcoming. This is the story of empowerment. This is my story. This is our story. I did not come through Lolita to be the spiritual matriarch for this project without you understanding who I am and who you are and why we are here. My story begins in Dorchester County, Maryland. I was a slave baby, and I was given away at 5. 5 years old was the first time that I went out of my parents' home to go live with another family to work. And every day of that year that I was with that family, I was beat. I was beat with a whip. I was beat with a book. I was beat with anything that mistress could put her hands on. I never had a childhood because I was a slave baby, which meant I didn't have a life of my own. My life and the life of my family, my mother and father, my brothers and sisters, 11 of us, and all those other slave families, we had no life of our own. Our lives belonged to our masters. And we did what we were told to do, and we received the punishments that were doled out to us. I remember when I was 5 or 6 years old, I was told to take care of this little baby. I took care of this little baby, and my job was to make sure that this baby did not cry all night. I sat up with this baby all night, and I was to rock this baby. If the mama heard this baby crying, I would get beat, and I got beat many a time. Lord knows, I can't even tell y'all how many times I was beat. By the time I was 6 or 7 years old, I had more whip marks on my back, more scars on my neck. The thing about me is that I just didn't know how to be good. I tried. Lord knows I tried. I worked as hard as I could. But I was a child, and I was mischievous, they said. I just got into trouble all the time because I had a spirit that would not just want to do what everybody told me to do. I knew inside of myself that something was not right. There was this calling in me to be free. Even as a little girl, there was a calling in me to be free, and it got expressed as mischievousness. So, what did I do? One day, I was standing near a bowl of sugar cubes, and the mistress was having an argument with her husband, and I said, well, I never knew what sugar tastes like. I'm going to put my hand in there, and I'm going to get a sugar cube so that I can know what that tastes like while she's not looking. And I swear, as soon as I opened that little china bowl and took out a sugar cube, the mistress turned around and saw me pop that sugar cube in my mouth. And I ran out of that house, and I ran as fast as I could. And I found a pig pen way on the other side of the plantation. And do you know, I stayed in that pig pen for 5 days. I was so scared, I did not want to go back. I knew what was going to happen if I went back, but I said, I'm going to stay right here with these pigs, and we're going to eat whatever they throw in here. I'm going to have some too, and I will survive. So I stayed in that pig pen, but I tell you what, after all that rain, and after fighting with those baby piglets over some scraps, I decided I better just go on back and take what's going to come to me. I got the whipping of my life. Oh my God. I was not spared because I was a child, no. I was supposed to mind and behave. I was not supposed to think that I could be free in any moment. Not even to taste a little sugar cube. Well, it was decided that I just wasn't obedient enough to work in the houses. So when I was a young girl, a teenager, probably about 11, 12, they sent me to work in the fields along with the men. And even though I was little, I have to tell you, I never grew more than 5 feet. And by that time, I was 5 feet. Everybody expected that I was going to get taller. I never got taller. But I was strong. My body was strong. So I was out there in the fields. Also, they let me go into the woods to work. I helped the men with the logging, with the trees, and I got stronger and stronger. And one of the things that happened while I was in the woods, I learned a lot about the plants. I learned about those plants. Some of those old men, they told me what these plants were, what they were good for. Some of them you could eat, and some of them was good for healing. You know what? They didn't know when they sent me out to work in the fields and out to work in the woods what I was learning. And how what I learned was going to be useful for me when I made my escape. They didn't know that already the stories were coming back to us. The songs, people would come in here singing about the North Star, singing about going up north. They didn't know that these songs were messages to us, telling us that there was a way out. I heard these songs, and I remember them. I remember these songs as a girl, and I knew that one day, I too will be free. I'm going to find my way out of here. And I'm going to know what to do. I'm going to know how to live in the woods. I'm going to know what plants I can eat and what plants I need for healing. Well, a few years later, when I was probably about 16 or 17, I had an accident. Well, it wasn't really an accident. It wasn't my fault. I was trying to protect a young boy from getting beat by the master, and I stood in the doorway when he was coming after this boy, and that master threw the heaviest piece of metal, iron, and hit me right in the head. He was trying to hit that boy, but my head was in the way, and I got hit in the head. I fell down unconscious and was taken back to my mama's house, where they nursed me for 2 days. I was allowed to stay off of work, out of the fields for 2 days while I was recovering from this injury. That metal piece was so big it made a dent in the left side of my head and a scar that lasts for all my life. And as a result of this injury, I had times that I just blacked out. Sometimes I just didn't know where I was. It was like I had gone to sleep. And this lasts for all my life. People didn't have a name for it then, but it affected me, it affected my health, it affected my body for the rest of my life. And also, as a result of being hit in the head, I began having dreams. I began having these dreams, strange dreams. Dreams of me having wings and me flying off somewhere, and dreams of these women in white beckoning me and calling my name and telling me everything's going to be all right. Sometimes I wouldn't even sleep when I had these dreams. People called them visions. I don't know what they were, but they were so strong. And they would happen anytime, whether I was asleep or awake. Well, time passed and I continued working. My body was strong even though I had the injury in my head. And soon thereafter, when I was about 19, I met John Tubman, who was a freed slave in Maryland. John and I became married, but we didn't live together. John lived where he lived, and I stayed with my parents. But all this while, I was having these plans in my mind that we're going to be free, me and John. We're going to be free. Even though John still had his freedom, it did not automatically mean I had mine. So, in the fall of 1849, I knew that I couldn't stand it anymore. More and more, my brothers, my sisters, and friends were being sold off by the mistress to keep her plantation running, and I knew that it was going to soon be my turn. So for the first time, the very first time, I went north. The first time I tried to go, I took my brothers with me. I told them, we gotta go. We gotta go, y'all. My husband didn't want to go, so I said, come on, boys, let's go. And we started out. And do you know, after the first night, my brothers got scared. They said I didn't even know what I was doing. They said my direction was wrong. They weren't trusting me at all. They wanted to go back. They wanted to go back. They wanted to go back to where we had come from. Oh Lord, I was up all night figuring out what to do. I couldn't desert my brothers, so I went back. I went back with them. Went back to where my mother and father was, to where our plantation was. Nobody had missed us at that time, and we were lucky. But I knew I wasn't staying. So before very long, I made my own plan. I decided that I would follow the North Star. I had heard those songs. I had heard those gospel songs that everybody was singing. And I knew that there were messages. We all knew. This was our own type of grapevine. The messages came from the North through the songs, through words. We knew that at certain places we would see quilts hanging out. We're to look at those quilts and we're to see if we see a star, if we see an arrow, if we see a person. We knew that if we followed the North Star at night, and if we came upon some quilts, we knew there was a message. Sometimes those quilts will tell us that this was a safe house for us to stay at. So I knew, by the grace of God, that I was going to be free. I was going to make it north. So I set out by myself. I set out at night. I took foot and left the only place I've ever known. I took foot not knowing how to read. I took foot not knowing anything but being a slave girl. I took foot with nobody else with me but my God. And I tell you, I prayed the whole time. I said, God, I know you want me to be free. I know you want all of us to be free. You have got to show me what to do. You've got to show me where to go. I traveled at night and slept during the day. I found myself in the woods in the daytime, and I hid in caves. I hid under leaves. I ate the plants that I knew were good and safe for me. And I traveled at night, quietly, silently. I knew that the slave catchers were after me, that the dogs were after me. I knew I would be hunted, but I kept going. Every night I looked north. I looked at the star, and I knew I was going in the right direction. I just kept going. I went by foot across rivers, through the woods, at night, alone, for 90 miles from the only home that I knew to a place that I learned was called Philadelphia. All along the way though, I found people who would help me, people who gave me shoes. I found those quilts that I had heard about at various places. I brought my favorite quilt with me, wrapped myself up at night. But at one of these stops, I gave my quilt away so that the lady of the house could give me some food and give me some more direction to where to go. Nothing was going to stop me. I knew that I could never be afraid of slave again. I could never go back to where I came from. I didn't know where I was going or how I was going to get there, but I knew by the grace of God that I would get there. And I did. I got to Philadelphia, was another world for me, and I decided I could not live here by myself. I could never just stay here by myself. I had taken myself to a place that was not a slave state, but I was still a fugitive. I was still a slave at large. But I did know that as long as I stayed in one of these states, I would be safe. But I couldn't stay there by myself. I heard about a year later, through these messages that came up the underground, through the underground train, the messages came. I heard that my niece was about to be sold, and I decided to make my first trip back south to bring my family out of that bondage. Because I could not read, I had friends that I had made in Philadelphia compose notes to send to my brother to let him know that I'm coming back. I'm coming back for your child and her children. I'm coming back to bring my niece and north. And that's what I did. I went back. I went back not once. I went back not twice. In 10 years, I went back 19 times. After the first 5 trips back and bringing my friends and my family and other enslaved people to Philadelphia, Philadelphia no longer was the haven that I believed it was when I first got there. There have been legislation passed that slave catchers can now come into the free states and find any fugitive slaves. And I knew we would no longer be safe in Philadelphia. I was still a fugitive. There was a price over my head. But I decided that won't stop me from bringing more people out. But this time we will go to Canada. So after 5 years of going back and bringing my family and bringing others out of the South with the help of so many beautiful black and white people who said, you can come here, you can stay here, we will feed you, we will give you food, we will give you shoes, we will give you clothing. I could never have done this by myself. It was the collective of all these people who have formed what we call the Underground Railroad. All of these people, from Maryland all the way up to Philadelphia, all the way up to New York, all the way up to Canada, who gave us shelter, who gave us food, who gave us clothing, so that we could make this journey. I could not have done it by myself. I had to be in communion. I had to be a part of a community, a part of a network, to be able to bring as many of these souls as I did to freedom. And once we decided to go to Canada, a whole new route opened up for us. We had established a well-established route to Philadelphia from Maryland and Virginia. But now we decided to go to Canada. We cut over to Albany, New York, where we were housed by Frederick Douglass. He lived in Albany. And from there, we took buggies, we took trains, incognito. We wore outfits. I sometimes posed as a man as we traveled across the Niagara Falls into Canada. I sometimes posed as a woman who could read. I had a newspaper with me. I was so totally illiterate, but that was to throw off all of those people who were trying to find me. They knew they were looking for someone illiterate, but I sat on the train with a newspaper like I could read so that people wouldn't pay attention to me. I had to use all the resources that I could for my safety and for the safety of everybody who I was bringing out of the South as a conductor on the Underground Railroad. I was the only woman who was not married, who did not belong to a church, and I was the only solitary black woman who ever was a conductor on the Underground Railroad. But I could not stop. And there was a prayer that I said, the Lord told me to do this. I said, oh Lord, I can't. Don't ask me. Take somebody else. And God spoke to me directly. And God said, it's you I want, Harriet Tubman. It's you I want. And I surrendered. I surrendered because I said yes. I heard God's voice telling me that I was the one. I was to be the Moses to bring all of these people out of bondage into freedom. And that I would be provided everything that I needed to do this. I tell you, it wasn't a day that I was not scared. It wasn't a day that I did not fear for my life and for those who I was bringing. But because my spirit said for me to do this, I trusted. I trusted. I went through my fear, and I would hear what to do. I would hear how to have us camouflage ourselves so no one would recognize us. I would know where to go, who to talk to. And because I couldn't read, I had these little pictures with me that I would show individual white folks along the way to test them out, to see if they were really a friend or foe. And if they recognized any of my anti-slavery friends' pictures, then I knew they were all right and I could trust them. There were so many people that helped us along the way. I want you to know I could have never done this by myself. I leaned into my spirit. I listened to what my God had to tell me. And I trusted those who said that they would help us. I never lost not one passenger on my rail. My train never went off the track. I want you to know that was not the case for all of the passengers on the Underground Railroad. There were many, many of our slave folks who never made it. But I said to my friend Frederick Douglass once, I've never lost a single passenger. Anybody who said they wanted to travel with Harriet Tubman got to their destination, got to their freedom. I supported them, and sometimes I had to threaten them because nobody was going to go back and jeopardize the lives of all of us. Oh Lord, there's so many stories I can share with y'all. Oh Lord, we had such a glorious, my life was such a glorious life. I lived to be 91 years old. I was plagued by headaches from the injury that I sustained when I was a teenager. But that didn't stop me. That did not stop me. When the Civil War broke out, I was enlisted by the governor of Massachusetts to go down to South Carolina and to help out there in any kind of way that I could. I nursed the troops. If you didn't know, I don't know how many of y'all knew that the coast of South Carolina was under the Union troops from 1861. The Civil War started in 1860, and the Union troops occupied the coast of South Carolina from Charleston all the way down into Georgia and freed the slaves on the coast of South Carolina. Beaufort and Hilton Head, Port Royal, all the coastal islands. The slaves were freed. But President Lincoln, he was not in agreement with this. It was the general who freed those slaves. But there was nothing Lincoln could do about it. It already had happened. And I was down there tending to the Union troops. And I was asked if I would become a spy for the Union. Because I was black and I looked like the enslaved people of South Carolina who were still enslaved inland off the coast, I could easily go into those communities and I could work. And I worked and I found out as much as I could about what was happening with the Confederacy. And I took that information back to the Union officers. And it was with this information that we plotted the now famous raid of 3 major plantations off of the Combahee River in Beaufort County, South Carolina, with 3 Union ships and 300 black officers, black military men. We sailed out into the Combahee River in the fog, early in the morning. And because of the information that I had gathered, we were able to detonate the mines that were under the ocean. I knew everything about what was happening in those waters, and I was able to tell our white officer what I knew. We sailed quietly out into the water. These troops silently waded onto land and swam onto land to let the people know that we were there to free them. And at the same time, we destroyed the fields, the crops. We destroyed the farms and the houses of the plantations that were off of this water. 300 slaves were able to get onto our boats and go back to freedom with us. We freed 300 slaves that night, me and 3 Union boats. And it is for this that I was buried with military honors. When I died in 1913, having gone back to New York, where I finally built a homestead for me and my family, and brought those of my family down from Canada into New York, we lived in Albany, New York. There were many, many more opportunities that I had to serve. I worked for women's suffrage. I created a home for the aging, for the ex-slaves and those freed slaves in Albany. I went on speaking tours to talk about the needs of the people. And I was always supported everywhere I went. I never forgot that my mission in life was to bring the word of freedom to women, to people, black people, to white people, to men, to everybody. I surrendered way back when I heard from God that I was the one. And I knew that I could never give up. So in the last years of my life, I spent at the home that I created with my second husband in Albany, New York. And it was in that home that I died of pneumonia in 1813. But I tell you, 91 years on this earth, 91 years of leaning into my spirit, of hearing what it is that I was supposed to do. 91 years of going through the fear that was always present of for being as a slave girl, as a fugitive slave, as a conductor, bringing all those folks out of the South, as someone who worked for the U.S. government union soldiers. 91 years devoted to my family, devoted to inspiring everyone that if they want their freedom is there for them. Not as a solo experience, but in communion with those of like minds and like hearts. Those who are willing to overcome their fears for the freedom of all people. 91 years, and my soul was at peace. My soul was at peace, and my soul was at peace. I came in here today through the channel of Ife Child. I came in here today to support each and every one of you, to feel into your own power, your own strength, your own oneness with the Spirit of God that lives within you. I came in here today to bring my love and support to you on this journey to freedom, on this movement out of bondage, to your movement out of the heaviness of lead that keeps us enslaved. I came through here today so that you could feel me and know me. Feel my love and devotion to each and every one of you, and to each and every person on this planet whose heart is calling for freedom.